Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news, and what a variety of news we've got for you this morning. Loads, absolutely loads. We've got an update on Bellingham, Jonathan David, Osimhen, Memphis Depay and a Saudi takeover. So absolutely lots to get into on this Saturday morning. Another day of 4 World Cup games as well. We'll have those covered on That's Football watch-alongs. That starts at 10 o'clock this morning. And yeah, we need to get some better games than shitty England last night, don't we? What a bag of shite they are. That's what happens when you have a crap manager. It's like watching Man United when we had Solskjaer, isn't it? I think Southgate's a nice guy, but I just don't think he's got a clue what he's doing. But look, lots to get into. Just a reminder, it was Black Friday yesterday with the sales, but our Black Friday sale on the United Stand Shopify page runs until midnight tomorrow night. So you've got today. I'm actually wearing something that's available in the sales. You can get 25% off in our Black Friday sale. Links in the description. You can get 25% off this and a load of other things. Christmas jumpers are still for sale as well, but the 25% off you can get from this beauty and a load of other things delivered worldwide. Links in the description. Christmas is coming and that. You might want to get it for kids, wives, boyfriends, whatever. Links in the description. Check it out. But look, the main updates that we've got, and there is an update on the Saudi takeover as well, so we are going to talk about United takeover as well. But I'm going to start off with the news. It is a news show, and the thrust of the updates this morning are coming in from @PlettyGoal on Twitter. German reporter for Sky in Germany. Very good on transfers, I think. I mean, it was somebody I became aware of more over the last sort of year or so. Thought it was very good in the summer, and certainly not somebody that's, I think when he talks about United, I always, tend to bring it into a news show because I think there is some credibility there. And what he's given quite a range of updates from Bellingham, obviously based in Germany at the moment. So, but also Memphis Depay, Osimhen and Jonathan David. So we'll go through those. But the big update is that on Memphis Depay is that he is on the list for Manchester United. That we've been told that Erik ten Hag can really imagine bringing him back to Manchester United. There's contact between all parties. Barcelona would even terminate the contract because they're desperate to get rid of the salary. So, look, I'll give you the news, and then we'll give our thoughts. That's what we do on this community, of course. And I think that's the way to do it. This would be a very logical replacement for Cristiano Ronaldo in the middle of the season. Ronaldo leaves for nothing. We saved the wages. We're probably going to save 16-20 million quid with Ronaldo going. He's gone for nothing. You bring Memphis in for nothing and you just pay him the wages. It will be a lot cheaper and it will replace Ronaldo in the squad for very little outlay for Manchester United. It's perfect in many ways, especially for a club that's trying to sell itself. You basically spend next to nothing on a replacement that comes in who's from Barcelona, is a Dutch international. It makes a lot of sense for Manchester United to do it, and I suppose the fact that the context there and Erik ten Hag would want to do it, I can see a lot of people in the chat saying, I quite like the idea of this deal. I like Memphis Depay. I do like Memphis Depay. I was very excited when we brought him the first time. I was very disappointed it didn't work out. He is a talented player, but I think we've had our fingers burnt more than enough about bringing things back. Whether it's Solskjaer, Pogba, Ronaldo, I don't think we've got a very good track record of bringing things back. And to be fair, Pogba, Ronaldo and Solskjaer have more of a connection with Manchester United than Memphis Depay did. So I just think it's destined to fail if we do it. And I think we need to be turning a new leaf. And there's plenty of people in the chat saying, look, why aren't we getting Gakpo? Nobble says Depay and Gakpo when we're cooking. Would you say no to both of them? Absolutely not. But I don't think Memphis Depay can be the one signing in January. It's cheap, it's risky, and it's not really what we need to be doing to give us the kick up the backside to go and push in the second half of the season. I just have this feeling that Memphis Depay wouldn't work on his own as the player that we bring in to replace Ronaldo. I think it would put a lot of pressure on him, put a lot of pressure on Ten Hag. And I don't know whether Ten Hag is well versed on what happened with Memphis the first time at Old Trafford. It was a bit of a PR nightmare. Memphis has spoken about it himself, probably a little bit too young for it. The press hasn't changed. It's still the same press. And I think he'd have a lot more pressure on him because of what happened the first time. I don't think the press would really want him to come back, and I think they'd be on his back. So I just, and also it's not as. I suppose what I'm trying to say is, if it's nothing or Memphis Depay, yeah, let's do it, and I'll back him 100%. I like the player, but it just doesn't feel right. A hunch to me, it doesn't feel right. Call it what you like, it doesn't feel right. And if we don't get Memphis and Gakpo goes to Real Madrid or Bayern Munich or Chelsea, who gets the better deal? Real Madrid, Bayern Munich or Chelsea get the better deal because they're getting the young up-and-coming player who's talented and has got development in him. And we're bringing back a player who's closing in on 30 that nobody else wants. I think there's always a big clue when nobody else wants a player like that. And nobody's queuing up to take Memphis Depay. So risk is not what we need at the moment. I think Ten Hag hasn't made any risks. Eriksen, that's everybody else's fault that nobody else wanted him. That wasn't a risk. And Brentford did want him, to be honest. Malacia is a young up-and-coming player. Martinez, Arsenal wanted him. Anthony, very exciting young developmental player. We paid a lot, but we did. Casemiro, one of the best midfielders in the world. There's very little risk in what Ten Hag has done in the transfer market. I wouldn't ruin the good run he's had by moving away from the. I mean, look, I think Ten Hag's got a blueprint of what players he's trying to bring in, and we saw that in the summer. And Gakpo fits in with what he's done in the summer. Memphis Depay diverts us away from what we're doing under Ten Hag. I don't think we need to go with the risk, in my opinion. But look, it's coming from a decent source. It's a very easy deal to do. We would get him for free. You can see. Gianluca said this isn't right. Never go back for a girl that rejected you. And Gakpo should already be at Man United, says Robert. Yeah, and I just want to talk about Gakpo very quickly. He's not in the news, so to speak, but we spoke about him yesterday afternoon. And we did the show at 3 o'clock, and I was saying that Manchester United wanted Ten Hag wanted Gakpo in August. He was not a replacement for Anthony. He was a replacement for Ronaldo. The story is this, and it's factual. Ten Hag wanted Anthony and Gakpo and was willing to let Ronaldo go. Ronaldo wanted to go. So it should have happened, but Man United said, or the Glazers said, or whoever you want it is, said, no, Ronaldo's not going and you're not getting Gakpo. And that's what happened. Gakpo should be a United player and Ronaldo should have gone in August. It's a shit show, basically. And United need to look at themselves again and go, how have we let this happen? Ronaldo should have left in August. We should have got Gakpo. And, 3 months later, we've got an interview. Everything's a mess and we're going to have to pay more for Gakpo now. It's a mess. We could have got Gakpo for 30 million quid and got rid of Ronaldo and saved ourselves 30 million quid. Instead, we don't get Gakpo. They now want 50 million and we end up spending 3 months' wages on Ronaldo and then let him go for free. Somebody said last night, well, you can't really blame United because no one wanted to buy Ronaldo. No one wants to buy him now and he's still left. We should have seen this coming a mile off. Gakpo should already be a United player. If they miss out on him in January, this is not Ten Hag's fault. This is Ten Hag missing out on a player that he wanted in the summer. So United need to go and get Gakpo because they messed it up in August. And, Ten Hag had already told them about it and they should have backed him. So, look, Gakpo needs to come in. I'll be fuming if we miss out on Gakpo because we should have got him in the summer anyway. We'll see what happens with Memphis Depay. I wouldn't be surprised if we look at that deal. I wouldn't be surprised if we bring him in. But I don't feel it's the right player to bring in January when you've got other options like Cody Gakpo. Plettigol also goes on to say about Jude Bellingham that Manchester United would not be in the race for Jude Bellingham. They're not considered to be in the race for Jude Bellingham. It's very much a three-horse race. Been told that Man United, this is Plettigol, been told that Manchester United hardly has a chance anymore of getting Bellingham. Liverpool, City, Real Madrid are the three teams pushing. But not any price at the moment. Could go up to 150 million euros. I've always felt that, and I've never had any information, but we have shared it. I've always felt that Jude Bellingham to Manchester United is not a possibility. I think we'd be joining that race too. If we had the new owners in now, maybe we would. But I think that those negotiations have been going on for a long time, and I think clubs are very much Liverpool, Man City and Real Madrid will lead that race. We won't be in it, unfortunately. Plettigol also says that Osimhen is a key priority for Manchester United to replace Ronaldo. Man United are convinced that he could improve United. The problem is that Napoli doesn't want to let him go in the winter. And regardless of that, United don't want to pay the 100 million, so no negotiations yet. I think Osimhen is a player that Manchester United like. Of course he is, but we're not going to buy him in January. And therefore the question comes, do you wait until the summer and get somebody in January? Do you go for Memphis in January and then go for Osimhen in the summer? they might do that. I personally think you go for Gakpo in January, and then you go for Osman in the summer, because we're about to get new owners. I think this is really important here. We are going to get new owners. We don't need to have the. I think I understand this, but fans are still in the same conversation. Well, we either buy in January or we buy in the summer for a striker. We don't. We're getting new owners. This whole, we can't get a midfielder and a striker and a centre-back. Well, we bloody well can. That's the whole point of getting new owners. So let's get Gakpo in January and get Osman in the summer. You know, let's stop going cheap. Let's stop going desperate. Let's stop taking risks. Let's plan like the club should be planning for new ownership and a new direction. Get Gakpo in January and Osman in the summer. It's as simple as that. Pletty also goes to say another candidate for Manchester United is the 22-year-old Canadian striker Jonathan David. He's been scouted several times and he wants to make the next step. We've been told that Lille would release him in the winter for around 50 million euros transfer fee. So look, quite a comprehensive update there from the Sky journalist Pletty on Twitter, works for Sky Germany, and has basically given a comprehensive update on the Bellingham situation, which we're not in the race for, but also Memphis Depay, Jonathan David, Osman updates there. Osman would be in the summer. Memphis is available for free in January. Jonathan David is available for 50 million euros, as is Cody Gakpo. So I go back to what we've spoken about quite a lot. We've got a very clear and defined path here. You get somebody in January and then you go for someone into the summer as well. That's what big clubs do. We've got no Ronaldo anymore. We've got one striker in Anthony Martial who's injury prone. We need two strikers. People forget that in the summer, even when we had Ronaldo and Martial, we still needed a replacement for Cavani. So we need two strikers. We're two strikers short. We're not one. Get Gakpo or David in January and then go and get Osman in the summer. I think it's a very logical thing to do. Or Harry Kane, or whoever it is we're looking at. But we need to bring two strikers in. And the positive thing for me is United cannot hide behind the fact that they don't have any money because they're about to sell the club. And secondly, they can't hide behind the fact that there's no value in the January transfer market, or that there is no players available in the January transfer market. We know three players that are available in January. Memphis Depay, Cody Gakpo, Jonathan David. And we'll do a poll on that, but those three players are available. They are available. And it's about who would you go for, who would you buy, who in January, basically. And you can put your vote in on that, and I'll have my say. But, you know, for the first time in a long time, there is actually players available that we can go for in January. And there's no excuse. Now, obviously, we're not the only club that's going to be looking to buy players in January. There will be other clubs as well, so you know we've got to be wary of that. But I don't see any excuses here. My personal preference is that we go for Gakpo. I think he's the player that I like the most, which I discussed yesterday. But ultimately, Manchester United have got to go and get one of those players, and they've got to be working on it now. Please not Kane, says Tumbleweed. Robert McCormack's obviously not here this morning. We've got to be working on this now. It is basically nearly the start of December. We've got 4 and a bit weeks until the January transfer window opens. What I don't want to see United do, which I guarantee we will see United do, the January transfer window will open and we'll snooze our way into it until late January, and then we'll be hunting around to do some business. So we won't actually do any business in January. We'll do it sort of back end of January before the start of February. But let me just tell you this. If United are thinking about not doing business in early January and working now, they're going to screw our season up because, as I've already said, the World Cup is running. If any of England, France, Portugal, Argentina, Brazil get to the semi-finals, and 4 of them could, we won't have any of those players who play for that playing over the Christmas period, because the finals and the third place and fourth game playoff is on the weekend of the 17th and 18th of December. Every World Cup player is getting at least a week off. So they wouldn't be back in training until we've played our Boxing Day fixture, which is actually on the 27th. So we're going to be massively short going over the Christmas period. We play Burnley on the 21st, which is the Carabao Cup. Then we're playing Forest on the 27th, and then we play Wolves on the 31st. January, though, January, we've got Man City, Arsenal to play. We'll have all the cup games as well. So look, we need to be we've got to be decisive here. We've got to be decisive and proactive. We've got to know that we need players in January, and we've got to have them in early January. There's no point in negotiating in January. We should be negotiating now and move on very quickly. That's certainly what I want to see from Manchester United as we move into the January transfer window. Joao Felix is the answer. Just before I move on to the takeover stories, Joao Felix loan deal. I spoke about this week. I can't remember. There's been so much going on. We did a video this week. It's Spanish reports at the moment, but it's definitely Spanish reports that Joao Felix is available for loan in January. I think it's I think you know, I might actually do a video today and put it up. You know, my top 5 striker candidates, because I think there are a wide variety of them. And Joao Felix is certainly a player that, if was available on loan, he would automatically come into that equation of Gakpo, Jonathan David, maybe then Memphis Depay. But Joao Felix on loan has to be in those options. It's a high priority option, and you know, a loan deal for Joao Felix might work really well, because yes, Atletico Madrid would want 100 million in the summer, but if we've got new owners by then, it's a very easy deal to do, and it's try before you buy, isn't it? Do you think we need more players in defence, says Wolf? I do. I think we need a centre-back. 87% of you have gone with Gakpo, 6% with David, and 7% with Memphis. I've never seen such a one-sided poll, so thanks everyone who is voting in that poll. Keep it coming. I would take Felix on loan, says Chris, and get him on loan, says don't mind me. Well, Joao Felix on loan, sign Cody Gakpo. I'd like that. But I'd like Joao Felix to come to Manchester United on a loan. I don't know how viable it is, but I think if we are being taken over, I think it's a very viable deal. You know, you go to Atletico Madrid, you go to Joao Felix, you say, look, we'll have new owners in the summer. We'll be able to sort out a deal then. We can't buy him at the moment, but we'll take him on loan and come back in the summer. They might go for it. They might go for it. We do need a right back, 100%. Wilfred, he says we don't need a right back. We do need a right back. We've only got one, so we definitely do need a right back. Let's move on to takeover news. I know everyone gets very excited about this. There is an update. It's gone a little bit quiet on the takeover stuff. I think this was natural. It's like a graph, isn't it? You get the breaking news that United are up for sale. Then it goes a little bit like this with Apple and everything like that. And now it's starting to drop a little bit. I think tomorrow morning it will go like that again, because we get the Sunday papers in the UK, and they are their own individual outlets, so they'll have their own stories. We might, you never know hour to hour whether you're going to get anything, but there is some breaking news around this. It came out yesterday. We've had Sir Jim Radcliffe. We've had, I believe that will be US owned. I think that's what's going to happen. We've had the Dubai Sovereign Wealth Fund linked. We've had Ambani from India linked. We've had Apple linked and then not in. We've got all sorts of stories. But what's sort of come out in the last 24 hours, I've noticed, is Saudi Arabian investment in Manchester United. I think this came from the fact that there was a comment from, I think, a minister or somebody from Saudi Arabia saying that they would welcome ownership of Manchester United from Saudi Arabia. And said it would be good for the country and good for the sport, etc. But there's been some clarification on that, because I think that got some people excited that, United under Saudi Arabian ownership would be like Newcastle, one of the richest, Newcastle's wealth is way more than Man City's. But there's been some clarity on that, because basically the Saudi Arabian ownership would be... it's like, I think they call it the PIF. It's like a private investment fund. It's a bit like I think it's a little bit like the Dubai Sovereign Wealth Fund. Basically, in a very simple way, the Sovereign Wealth Fund and the PIF for Saudi Arabia Private Investment Fund, they're not similar, but they are similar. They're basically the wealth of the country, the state, the wealth of the state. That's what it is. And Saudi Arabia have their investment, their fund, whatever you want to call it, is their state fund, and they've bought Newcastle. So what they've basically said is we can't buy Manchester United because we've bought Newcastle. There might be private investment from Saudi Arabia. There might be other private investors who buy into it. I think Sheffield United have been bought by a Saudi Arabian businessman. But the actual state funds, which have bought or are part of a group that's bought Newcastle, that can't happen because they bought Newcastle. So we can't be bought by Saudi Arabian state funds or wealth funds or anything like that because they've already bought Newcastle. So that can't happen for Manchester United. And similarly, Abu Dhabi owns Man City. Saudi Arabia own Newcastle. So this is why people keep wandering towards Dubai, because Dubai hasn't got a football club yet. So yeah, we're delving into investment funds, private wealth funds, sovereign wealth funds, state-owned funds, because that's the level that Manchester United could be operating at in this bidding process. But we cannot be bought by the Saudi Arabian state because they own Newcastle. So yeah, that sort of closes the door on that, I suppose. In all honesty, we missed out on that ownership model because of the Glazers and their Super League obsession. If we'd been sold 18 months ago, I think Newcastle wouldn't be owned by them. We might be owned by Saudi Arabia, but I mean, some people wouldn't be happy with that anyway. Some people wouldn't like that anyway. But yeah, that's the update with that. Oil is up, says Crypto. Would you want a Saudi owner, says Tudor? Well, I appreciate the directness of the question. It's a very hard question to answer hypothetically because it's not going to happen. And, you know, I remember at the time, probably about a year ago, when we got linked to the Saudi Arabian PFI and investment fund, or whatever you want to call it. And I said, look, there's huge questions there about, you know, things away from football and all sorts of accusations and everything like that. And the time to, I mean, look, some people would say I don't want it anyway. Some people would say I do want it. Personally, I would say I don't really need to make a decision on that when it's a hypothetical. And I don't really need to make a decision on that until, you know, it looks like they're going to buy Man United. And that's not me sitting on the fence. That's just like, I don't really want to delve into human rights and politics when I'm talking about who's going to own Man United, hypothetically, because they're not going to own Manchester United. So I don't need to answer that question. But it's certainly been an interesting week for me, and I think a lot of other people as well. I think if you'd have asked me on Monday, when I didn't know that United were up for sale, who I'd like to buy Man United, my ideal United owner was probably very different to what it is now. Because it's a reality that United's up for sale, it makes you think in a reality. And what I mean by that is that we are genuinely thinking who we want to be United's next owner now. Whereas a week ago or a month ago, we were hypothetically talking about it. Well, hypothetically is imagination. Reality is real. Who do I really want to own Man United is different to who I would think I would like to own Manchester United. And maybe I used to lean towards the responsible ownership model where it's a Man United fan who owns us and everybody's singing off the same hymn sheet and it's about, you know, living off our own profits, and which I think is very organic. It's almost like giving up your job in the city to buy a farm and grow your own vegetables that you crap on yourself, and you know you feed the land and you live off the land. It's a very nice idea, isn't it? But that's not football. You know, you can have your organic farm or your farm, and you can grow your own vegetables and everything, and you know you can throw your phone in the river. You can go to bed at 8 o'clock when it gets dark and not have any electricity, and I'm sure it's very nourishing for the soul. But that's not going to make you win the title, unfortunately. You're going to get absolutely battered when, you know, the Man Cities of this world come down to your farm and give you a game of football. You literally will be a bunch of farmers. We need, in football, to win, to look at what PSG and Manchester City have done and the mega wealth that they have. So I find myself now looking at it and going, I don't think the responsible ownership model is right if you want to win titles. I think it's right for a lot of people, but I don't think it's right if you want to win titles. I don't think we can win titles with this responsible ownership where we live off our own profits, because if we want to live off our own profits and we were in a position where we could generate 200 million of profits every year, which I think would be difficult, I think it would take a number of years for us to do that anyway, because we've got to build the stadium, we'd have to cut the wage bill, we'd have to do a hell of a lot of things to make us profitable to the point where we could have 200 million in profit and then invest it into the team. It would take a long time. You'd have to build the farm and plough the fields before you could even live off it. So I think it's a hypothetically idealistic view that we can have responsible ownership and be successful. I don't think we can. I think in this modern world of football, if you want to be successful, you need someone to come in with mega wealth and do things quickly. And therefore, the type of owner you want is a select type of owner. And I'm honest, I think I want United to win titles. I want United to win the Champions League. We've been away from it for too long. I don't want to wait another 20 years for that to happen, and it might not happen if we do. So I want ownership that comes in and delivers now. And that, therefore, it has to be major wealth. And therefore, I think whoever takes over the club, whether it's Apple, Dubai, America, whatever, they've got to have super wealth, and they've got to invest super wealth into United from day one in the early years. That's what I want. And I think any type of ownership model like that is going to have an issue, because I don't think super wealth like that doesn't have an issue. Whether it's human rights, whether it's moral, whether it's political, there will be an issue. But name me somebody that doesn't. If we want to compete in the future, we need Dubai, says Deacon. Bayern model, they're successful, says Kaz. I don't think the Bayern model is successful, to be honest. I don't think the Bayern Munich model would be successful in the Premier League. I think it suits them in the Bundesliga because they have a monopoly on the Bundesliga. They basically take all the best players. I mean, the Bayern Munich model is not... I like Bayern Munich. What a club. But I don't like the Bayern Munich model, and you couldn't transfer it to Manchester United. Bayern Munich model would basically be Man United are the kings of the Premier League. We buy Man City's best player. We buy Chelsea's best player. Without a fuss, they just come, and they come for good value, and a lot of the time they come free. I mean, Lema is going to go to Bayern Munich for free from Leipzig, who are the equivalent of Manchester United taking Mason Mount from Chelsea for free. The Bayern Munich model will not work in the Premier League for Manchester United. Many people think it would, but everybody would have to have it, not just Manchester United. It wouldn't work. It works uniquely well for Bayern Munich because they make massive amounts of money from the Bundesliga. They dominate the Bundesliga, and that allows them to, build teams that can then compete for the Champions League. If you put Bayern Munich in the Premier League, it wouldn't work. They wouldn't be able to buy Man United's best player. They wouldn't be able to buy Chelsea's best player. And they'd get swallowed up into a league where they're doing it their way and everyone else is doing it a different way. It works exclusively well for the Bundesliga. It wouldn't work for the Premier League. So, in my opinion. Hi, Mark. I feel we should first pay off our debt that the Glazers left us before revamping our stadium, says Herschel. I think people need to forget about the debts. The debt will go with the Glazers. Like, nobody is buying a house and taking on someone else's mortgage. The mortgage goes with the seller. The debt goes with the Glazers. No one's buying that club and taking on the debt. The debt is the Glazers. The debt was we weren't in debt. The Glazers bought the club by buying us on debt and stuck us into debt. When they sell the club, they take the debt with them. We will not be in debt when the Glazers go. That cannot happen and would never happen. It would be ridiculous. So I wouldn't worry about the debt. We won't succeed with American owners, says Neko. I think that's very xenophobic in a sense, because I don't actually believe that all American owners are bad for football. I think even Chelsea are an investment consortium, and an investment means they want a return. I think you can describe most American ownership as investment. And investment is a dangerous word because investment means they want a return. But it's not always a bad word, because Man City have always described their ownership model as investment. David says that is 100% not true. Let us know what you mean by that, David. I'd love to know what you mean. Man City are now self-sustaining. Whether they'll ever make the money back that they put into it, I don't know. But if Man City was sold tomorrow, does anybody know how much Man City was bought for? Here's an interesting point. How much did they buy Man City for? And how much is Man City worth now? You could probably get to a point with Man City where it's almost a case study in itself. How much have Man City's owners spent on Man City to this point? How much? And how much are they worth now? Because I'd still say that they've spent a lot more than they've put in, but there is an investment element to it that they are starting to make money. Club will carry the debt. No, we won't. I don't know. I don't know what people are talking about. People think that the club is going to be bought in debt. I've never heard such nonsense in all my life. If you're in a position where you've bought a house and you sell your house and you've got a mortgage on your house, which is debt, when you sell it to your new owner, you don't walk off with the profit and leave them with your mortgage. I've never heard such nonsense in all my life. So if you own a house that's worth £100,000 and you've got a mortgage on it for £50,000 and someone gives you £100,000 for the house, do you walk off with £100,000 and leave that person with the £50,000 mortgage? Do you bollocks? You take your mortgage with you. That's what happens. We won't be selling this club in debt. The debt will go with the Glazers unless we get an absolute clown ownership. I mean, for God's, the Glazers should never be left alone if they leave the debt with this club. That would be ridiculous. I've never heard such nonsense in all my life. The debt will stay with the new owners. Fucking hell. Does anyone own a bank account? Has anyone got any clue about finance? The debt will stay with the bloody with the club. Oh, God. Jamie says, why are you so moody? I'm not moody. I'm in a very good mood. I'm looking forward to the things. I find it hilarious that people think they know what they're on about. Morning, Mark. I agree the debt will be taken with the Glazers. It's a signed contract with them, says Chris. And apparently, Stephen says that Man City was bought for 265 million or 210 million in 2008. So it's an interesting point. Everybody's scared about the word investment, and I don't like the word investment because it means somebody buys you with the intent of making a profit out of you. But Man City were bought for 210 million. Man City would be sold for about 3 or 4 billion now. So they've made profits on their investment of 2.7 billion, Man City. How much have they spent on that club? And they're turning a profit at the moment. Suddenly, Manchester City, which is an oil club, which is just about throwing money at it and, abusing financial fair play and the oil line from Abu Dhabi to Manchester, they bought that club for 300 million. It's worth probably 3 billion at least. They've made 2.7 billion on their investment already. How much have they spent in the last 10 years? How much? And if you add that spend to the 300 million that they bought the club for, how close is that to the 3 billion the club's worth now? It's interesting. It's interesting because everybody thinks that Newcastle's owners and Man City's owners and PSG's owners are just, chucking money in with no intent to make any profit. Maybe that's the case, but they've still massively increased the value of Manchester City, and the same will happen with Newcastle. And you might end up with a situation where Man City's owners could sell it and actually make a profit on everything that they've put in. Glenn says the debt is in the club's name, but the inflated purchase price would include the debt being paid off. 100%, Glenn. 100%. Nobody is going to buy Manchester United for £6 billion and take on £500 million worth of debt as well. It will all be incorporated into the deal to clear the debt, 100%. Dan says City's not worth 3 billion. Come on, mate. Chelsea just went for 2.7. Man City have won how many league titles in the last 5 years? They've got a bigger stadium. They've got the best manager. They've got the infrastructure. If Chelsea's worth 2.75, then Man City's worth very close to that as well. So yeah, look. All I'm trying to do, and I enjoy these shows, all I'm trying to do, I worked in investment banking before I did this for 3 years. So, look, I have a little bit of an understanding of it. Some people have a better knowledge than me. But what I'm trying to say is that some of our fans seem to go, oil me up, let's get the oil line in, that's the best way to go. But a wealthy investment fund that wants to invest in the club still might not be a bad idea, because imagine I'm Ruthless Goldbridge, right? And I don't like Manchester United. I want to buy it to make money, right? This is my point. If I'm ruthless and I want to just buy Man United to make money and I spend 6 billion on United, already I've spent 2 billion more than it's worth. So I'm 2 billion down already, as well as the 4 billion I've spent. To get my money back is going to take me at least 5 years just to get that club up to worth 6 billion, and then I don't even turn a profit. To turn a profit, I need to take that 6 billion club I've overpaid for to 10 billion or 12 billion. Well, to take Man United from a 6 billion club to a 10 billion club is going to take about 10 years. And also on top of that, I'm going to have to do a shitload of work around the stadium, the squad, the infrastructure, win trophies. So where's the kickback for us as fans? Even if someone buys Man United to make money out of us, they're going to have to chuck a load of money in to make us worth that money. So I don't really see a massive issue. What I'm trying to say is we're not going to get a Glazer ownership, because the Glazer ownership bought us when we were at the top of the hill and basically kicked us down it, making money along the way. At the moment, we're at the bottom of the hill, and if you want to make money out of us, you've got to help us climb to the top again, which is what everybody wants. Man City is valued at 4.25 billion from Forbes, says Chuck. Not surprised. Not surprised. Not surprised at all. Sorry if it came out as xenophobic. Entire life was spent watching United under the Glazers. I never experienced the good old days. At least I saw 0-8, says Necker. I don't know. I don't think you were being intentionally offensive to Americans. I just think there is a bit of a stereotypical judgment call. I mean, Gary Neville said it, hasn't he? I think all American owners get thrown into the Glazer camp or the Kroenke camp or the FSG camp, and of which 3 are very varying successes, to be fair. I don't think all American investment is bad. And actually, I actually think that Manchester United may well end up with American investment or ownership. I think that's the rumour, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's true. And I think if the deal's going to happen quickly, it probably will be American ownership. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens with it. But look, some very interesting updates this morning. We always seem to end up in the path of the ownership conversation, because obviously that's what everybody is interested in at the moment. But yeah, it's very interesting how it might pan out. Let me just see what's going on here. Oh, that's interesting. Just had a message from somebody in the know saying that the debts 100% will not be left with Manchester United, but hypothetically it could be. So, those people who were saying it could be, it could be, but 100% won't happen. Because I suppose, like what I was saying, somebody could be stupid enough to buy the club and say, we'll take the debt on. Desperate idiots might do that. But, I mean, in reality, look, whoever's going to buy Man United is going to overpay. We're not worth 6 billion, but I think we'll go for 6 billion. So if you're going to overpay for United, why would you also saddle yourself with debt? And let's not forget, debt is 500 million, but also debt is the debt repayments, which is hundreds of millions. The Glazers have spent hundreds of millions on debt repayments. So, yeah. By your logic, Neko, Sir Jim would be a failure because of Mike Ashley. Don't worry, America will save the day, says Ike. And Glazers want 6 billion so they can pay the debt off, says Daniel Kirk. Yeah. I've absolutely got no fear at all that Manchester United will end up in a situation where we are straddled with debts. It would make no logical point. There wouldn't be one. There wouldn't be any point at all in Manchester United being sold and the debts being saddled with them. It wouldn't make any sense. So, morning, Mark. Who do you think we are going to sign in January? Who do you personally think is going to buy the club? Tom Grant, thank you very much for that. He's been a member for 10 months. I think Gakpo is the player that we must go for, because that's the player that Ten Hag wants. And I think that it's not about who I want Manchester United to buy. It's about who I'm hearing who is going to buy United. I think the Glazers have already got a buyer lined up. I've got no information on that. It's just a hunch. I don't think the Glazers would go public unless they had a few buyers lined up. It doesn't mean they won't change their mind if a bigger offer comes in. But I think the Glazers have basically again, I use house and car a lot, but if I've got a car on my drive and I know someone wants to buy it for a price I'll sell it for, do I take that price, or do I then put it on the market as well and go, I know I've got a buyer, but I might get a little bit more? And I think that might be the situation. I think United have got a buyer. I think the Glazers have got a buyer that they're happy with, but they're putting it out there just in case someone comes in with a silly offer that's bigger, that suits them. So, and I think that the buyer that they've got in mind is US based. Man United market cap is 3 billion. That's with a 50% premium sale announcement. No way Glazers are getting 6 billion. That's 3 times normal value. And anybody spending billions wants a return. 1 to 2 billion needed on the stadium. No way, says Michael. So Michael says we won't get 6. I think it'll be close to 6. Depay plays football to fund his career. United must stay away from him, says QWERTY. And can I just remind everybody as well that you can get one of these. We've got our Black Friday sale running across the weekend. United Stand Shopify. Link is in the video description. And you can get that there. 25% off, delivered to your door. This is one of the items that is reduced. Our Christmas jumpers are still for sale as well. Make sure you check it out. Christmas is coming and all that. Delivered worldwide, so get those orders in. There is a bit of delay if you want them worldwide, because obviously it takes longer to post out. So get those orders in. Right, it's time to end the stream, or is it? No, Sean Turner says it's going to be a fresh start, and I'm buzzing for us to be takeover by whoever buys it. Also, I don't want any of them players on the poll. Trossard should be number 1 target, says Sean Turner. Interesting. We are live now on That's Football. We've got 4 watch-alongs for you. We're in the studio for the first one. 4 cracking games today. France against Denmark at 4 o'clock. So if you are watching the World Cup, make sure you're watching it with us throughout the day. And we will have some United Stand content on for you. I don't know whether there's some videos I've got in mind, and then I might do a live as well. So watch out, sort of 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock tonight. There might be another live. It is the weekend, but we've got content for you. And obviously, if anything breaks, we'll be live. But we are going to be live a lot on That's Football. I'll push you over to the live chat there. Speak to you in a bit.